everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rack and Roll Future Proofing Your Warehouse. I'm Ashley Feldpausch, your host. Today, we're delving into the realm of supply chain execution in customer packaged goods companies. By the end of our session, you'll have a solid understanding of the tools, processes, and strategies critical for optimizing supply chain operations within the CPG industry. I'm joined today by Craig Moore, VP of Sales at Körber Supply Chain. Hi, Craig. How are you?
Hey, Ashley, doing well. Thanks for asking.
So thanks for being on today. And if you want to take a moment to introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. As you mentioned, Craig Moore with Körber Supply Chain Software have been here for 13 years. So have had the opportunity over time to work with quite a few organizations who've looked to optimize their supply chain execution. And today I'm excited to talk about some of the work that I've seen and had opportunity to participate in with consumer packaged goods organizations.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for starters, we'll jump right in. So we're all on the same page. What is your definition of consumer packaged goods?
For consumer packaged goods, I oftentimes think about it as products that are frequently purchased, and that could be by an individual or a household. So products that are on a regular cycle of utilization in the general consumer industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that definition. It really helps set the stage, and it's interesting how these everyday items are at the heart of so many of our supply chain operations. So, from a supply chain execution perspective, what tools are widely used in a CPG type of company?
Say WMS is definitely a cornerstone for that. And WMS over time, while it's a very mature industry space in terms of a technology solution, there have been some other elements that I know at Körber Supply Chain we incorporate that take into consideration things that happen operationally alongside the WMS, like a lot of the paperwork that gets generated in the operations. So we have solutions to help incorporate that. Besides WMS, though, there's order management software. We're seeing more and more utilization of autonomous mobile robotics within the operations, voice or vision solutions to help the warehouse associates, as well as transportation management solutions, transportation spend optimization solutions, and warehouse control software, and other forms of automation that are finding their way into the warehouse itself.
Yeah, I can imagine how important it is for these systems to work together seamlessly for your optimal efficiency in your warehouse. So, what types of processes would a WMS help with?
Let me start to think about chasing a box through the building. I would start on the inbound processes, some of the perhaps receiving inspection, the put away processes. We'll talk about this perhaps a little bit more in our conversation, but then even recognizing an opportunity to perhaps optimize operationally to not even have to put something away, but perhaps to cross stock it. And we start thinking about the outbound operations, the picking processes, the consolidation of orders, the controls around expiration and the traceability, and then just overall operationally within the warehouse, solutions like slotting and also addressing some of the other multi-channel efficiencies that CPG companies are starting to have to deal with nowadays.
Absolutely. Yeah, your WMS really covers a wide range of tasks and it streamlines a lot of operations, no doubt. So CPG companies use other types of systems in their organizations, like their ERP and their financial, HRIS, CRM, e-commerce, etc. Can a WMS typically integrate with these tools?
Well, yes. Short answer. The explanation behind that, we started our conversation talking about supply chain execution. So an execution system, which is what a WMS really is, it's expecting to integrate because it needs to be told what to do or what to expect, and then also to be able to communicate back what's been done. So integration is part of every implementation that I know we do because we need to speak with those other systems. Many of those systems are residing a system of record for some particular transaction that's taking place. So the communication happens between the WMS and those other solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Integration sounds key, and it sounds like your WMS will handle all of the things it needs to connect to. Is there one system that usually goes hand in hand with WMS or one that shows the most potential for a quicker ROI?
I think that yes, there are multiple type of systems that can work really well with the WMS. To answer the question, I think the focus comes back to what am I doing to augment the workforce? And that human workforce nowadays, the augmentation of it is certainly aided by a lot of the advancements that are taking place within autonomous mobile robotics, voice solutions, vision solutions. Those working in cooperation with the WMS absolutely makes a big difference in the operational efficiency of the workforce.
Yeah, that makes sense. Over the years, what is one function in a WMS that has given a CPG company the most return on investment?
I think this is where our conversation shifts a little bit because over the years, the reality is the time period in which we live right now is different than it's been as the last decade has progressed. CPG companies have had to deal with the fact that they've had to adjust their businesses to be able to pivot to where the consumer is or how the consumer wants to purchase from them. So I would say from a functional perspective, maybe not one particular piece of functionality as much as perhaps a philosophy, which is to be able to be process driven with a solution like a WMS, to be able to adapt business processes within supply chain execution, to be able to support meeting the consumer wherever the consumer wants to acquire their products at.
Right? It's impressive how many or how such improvements have such a wide impact on their bottom line. In the CPG world, there has always been buzz around compliance and with industry regulations like FDA, et cetera. How does the WMS ensure this type of compliance?
Well, I think it helps certainly with if it has the ability to do transactional logging, meaning the ability to recognize if something was done, it was done by whom? When did they do it? And then the traceability that comes along with that within a WMS and tracking particular product SKUs, for example, like lot codes, having lot control, maybe driving processes around first in, first out, first expired, first out, being able to manage orders directly to a particular customer in the way that they want product delivered to them. That type of transactional logging is something that's going to continue to feed back into the compliance of, okay, well, we know when we received that, we know what happened to it when it was in within our warehouse operation, we know who touched it, we understand the dates around that product, we understand the lots around that product, and it could even need to go down to the level of serialized controls. So, and again, we know that can vary by customer. So having the ability on an order level to be able to have full traceability around their products and their activities within the warehouse is going to help to meet the compliance requirements that are very likely only to get more stringent as time goes on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see how critical it is, especially considering the rigorous regulations in their industry. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share when it comes to supply chain systems and CPG companies today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of made reference to it earlier in our conversation, but there's this journey to meet the consumer at the store shelf. That's historically what it's been. That has been significantly altered. CPG companies have operated for a long time in the world of retail. Nowadays, there's more and more opportunities to enter into different marketplaces and channels that CPG companies need to operate within today and to, again, meet the consumer where the consumer wants the product to be. So it could be, today it could be the doorstep, not necessarily the store shelf. So many CPG companies have the opportunity to work directly with the customer. And you hear a lot of talk about the ability to cut out maybe the transactional middleman. So if CPG companies have an effective supply chain execution strategy, they're able to do that. They get good execution within their supply chain. They optimize their processes. They're more efficient. And then that directly impacts their bottom line performance, their market perception, their brand loyalty, And then, of course, their investment community and the returns that they're able to deliver to their investors. So all of that, I think, plays into what's happening within consumer packaged goods today and where supply chain execution is so important. We didn't really talk a lot about it, but maybe in a future conversation, I think there's also the other element that CPG companies are dealing with now, which is sustainability initiatives. So the environmental impact, the social impact that they're having, the decisions that they're making directly impacts how investors are and consumers are viewing CPG companies. And a lot of that is impacted by what they're doing within supply chain and execution to prove their sustainability. And we see that as a very important initiative that's taking place within supply chain execution within CPG.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's exciting to see how technology is continuing to evolve and meet the demands in the industry. And so we'll see what the future holds. And I agree. We'll continue this conversation and maybe we can get more depth on the sustainability. So thank you everyone for joining us on this edition of Rack and Roll. We hope you found today's discussion on supply chain execution for consumer packaged goods insightful and informative. If you have any questions or you'd like to learn more, please feel free to reach out. Our contact information is provided in the description below. Until next time, bye.